The first pale breath of dawn rolled over Gullwing Island, like a spill of pink milk on a limitless blue table. Gulls shrieked around the masts that crowded the marina, and someone, somewhere, was already tuning a concertina in anticipation of Sailor's Day. Pia Torres, apron tied over a faded blue sundress, steered her bicycle through the humming lanes toward the Laughing Lantern Cafe. The air smelled of tar, coffee, and the faint, sugary promise of rum cake. Every year, Sailor's Day broke the rhythm of the island's quiet life, substituting it with a roaring heartbeat of races, shanties, and rivalries old as barnacles. Pia loved the holiday, but this morning she felt a tremor of unease she couldn't explain. Maybe it was the dream she'd had, her abuela dead these 7 years, pointing toward the harbour and whispering, "Watch the rigging, Nina." Dreams were only dreams, Pia reminded herself, yet she couldn't shake the chill that lingered. Outside the cafe, crates of mangoes waited to be diced for smoothies, and a stack of commemorative mugs, white porcelain stamped with racing skiffs, balanced beside the door like a fragile totem pole. Pia unlocked the door, rolled up the shutters, and inhaled the reassuring scent of ground beans. By 7, the place would swarm with sailors, judges, tourists, and gossip. But she had a half-hour of peace to prepare, or so she thought. She'd barely measured the first shot of espresso when the bell above the door jingled. Tomas, her little brother, rushed in wearing deck shoes, a life vest thrown on over his t-shirt as though he'd dressed mid-stride. His cheeks, usually the colour of mahogany from sun and sea, had blanched ash white. "Pia," he gasped, "you need to come to Pier 3, now." "I'm prepping." She wiped her hands on a towel. "Can it wait?" "No," he swallowed. "It's Finn. Finn Cordero, 3-time defending champion of the Sailor's Day Regatta, golden boy of Gullwing, and the closest thing the island had to a living legend. Finn was beloved for buying entire rounds after a win and for volunteering to teach schoolchildren how to reef a sail. Pia's stomach knotted. What happened? Just come. Thomas's eyes begged for no more questions. Pia locked the cash drawer, taped a handwritten note, back in 10, on the door, and followed Thomas into the awakening streets. Banners drooped from balconies, sea and sky united, Happy Sailor's Day. A young couple rehearsed the day's first hornpipe on a portable speaker, but the tune warped eerily as Pia and Thomas hurried past. Pier 3 lay in shadow, the sun still too low to gild its weathered planks. Here, the racing yachts docked like long-necked swans, sleek hulls gleaming with fresh paint. Finn's vessel, the Firebird, bobbed at the end, lashed by a single rope. Crew members huddled near the mast. Pia recognized old Jory, the grizzled harbour hand who maintained lines and anchors for nearly every boat in the marina. He clutched his cap, eyes shining with moisture. "Pia," Jory croaked, "thank God you're here." "What can I do?" she asked automatically, though she was only a waitress with a talent for listening to island chatter. Jory pointed upward. Finn's body dangled halfway up the mast, tangled in rigging like a puppet whose strings had cinched too tight. His once white racing shirt was soaked crimson at the shoulder, and his head lolled at an unnatural angle. The dawn breeze swung him gently while gulls swooped overhead, screeching. Pia's breath snagged. "Is he gone?" Thomas whispered. A metallic taste coated Pia's tongue. Terror or salt, she couldn't tell. Constable Sefu arrived a minute later, sweating in a wool jacket ill-suited to the tropics. He barked orders, and soon 2 deckhands climbed to lower Finn. When his feet finally touched deck, Finn looked smaller than the legend Pia remembered. a boy of 28, whose grin had once lit every pub. Word rippled through the marina, across breakfast tables, along the cross-island path to the lighthouse, and by the time the sun fully burned free of the horizon, the idyllic image of Sailor's Day had shattered. The champion skipper was dead. While Sefu taped off the pier, Pia found herself ushered into the role of unofficial confidant. People who couldn't bear to speak to the constable sought her out instead, maybe because she poured their coffee every morning, maybe because her calm cheeks hid the same questions raging behind her eyes. First came Lila Knox, Finn's fiercest rival. Lila captained the blue-hulled Siren's bargain and was known for swearing in 5 languages and carving notches into her tiller for every victory. She marched into the cafe an hour later, salt still flaking her braids. "Tell me what you heard," Lila demanded before ordering even a cup. Pia frowned. "That Finn was found in the rigging with a stab wound. That's all anyone knows." "It's murder then," Lila's nostrils flared. "Everyone will think it was me." "Why would they?" Pia asked gently. "Because I'm the only skipper who could have beaten him again. That's why." Lila slammed her palm on the counter. "I was on watch aboard my boat all night. But witnesses? Just the stars." Pia nodded, poured her a dark roast, and slid over a slice of mango bread. "Eat something. It's going to be a long day." When Lila left, head bowed, Mayor Ansell breezed in. His official sash looked wilted. "Terrible tragedy," he murmured, accepting a cappuccino. "But the show must go on, Miss Torres. Sailor's Day is our biggest tourist draw. We'll dedicate the regatta to Finn's memory." Pia bit back a retort. The mayor's concern was clearly measured in coins, not tears. All morning, stories tangled like kites in wind. Some swore Finn's victory last year had been fixed. Others whispered he had debts in the mainland, or that he'd quarrelled with a secret lover. Pia listened, poured coffee, smiled or frowned in the right places, and mentally sorted gossip into 2 categories: noise and signal. One detail kept tugging at her: Finn's shoulder wound. Old Jory had said the shirt was soaked at the shoulder, not the chest or back. A knife to the shoulder wouldn't kill instantly. It would incapacitate, yes, but the snapped neck seemed the final blow. Could Finn have been stabbed, then hoisted alive? Or did he fall, catch, and break his neck accidentally? Pia closed the cafe at noon under pretense of restocking, grabbed her bicycle, and pedalled to the harbour. She found Jory mending a net. The old man looked gutted, but when she approached, his eyes sharpened. "You're hunting answers," he said. "I can see it in your step." "Tell me about last night," Pia replied. "Everything." Jory spat into the water. "Finn came back late after moonset. I was fiddling with lanterns. He seemed off, kept rubbing his shoulder like it ached." "Already wounded?" "Could have been. I asked. He said he'd bumped a boom." Jory shook his head. "Then he sent me home. Said he wanted the deck alone. I left around 2. "Then someone boards after," Pia reasoned. "Stabs him again, maybe in the same spot. Then what?" "Hoisted him up." Jory's voice trembled. "That's evil, strong rope work. Takes know-how." Pia considered the skilled sailors on the island. Almost any of them could manage knots in the dark. Back at the cafe, she sorted through Finn's customer tab. He always scribbled wagers and notes on napkins and left them stuffed in the mug. One slip caught her eye. "Bird's bones sing at midnight, meet under the wheel. R." The wheel could only mean the Ferris wheel on the carnival barge anchored offshore for the holiday. R. Rosa Velasquez? No, Rosa owned the cafe. R could be Ronan, the marine mechanic. Or, Pia's heart stumbled, Rowan Rowe Cabrera, Finn's sailmaker and childhood friend. Night settled over Gullwing in a hush unlike any sailor's day Pia remembered. Fireworks scheduled to light the sky were postponed. Still, music drifted from taverns where mourners toasted in Finn's honour. Pia wiped counters until Rosa sent her home. Instead of sleeping, she crossed the moon-silvered sand toward the carnival barge. The Ferris wheel loomed like a lace skeleton against bruised clouds. No ticket sellers manned the booth. Pia tiptoed past a rope barrier and ducked under an arcade awning. Someone cleared their throat. Pia whirled, fists raised. Rowan Cabrera emerged from the shadows, hair pulled into a low knot, grease smearing his palms. "Pia," Rowan whispered. "Thought you were the constable." "I could be," she countered. "Ah, that your mark?" Rowan's shoulders slumped. "Finn asked me to stitch initials on his spinnaker, but I didn't write that note." He tugged a folded square of paper from his pocket. The handwriting matched Finn's scrawl. "He left it for me." Pia read, "The Firebird is cursed. If I don't come back, tell her I tried." Tell who?" Pia asked. Rowan looked away. "I think Lila." "Why would Finn ask you to tell Lila anything?" Pia searched Rowan's face. "Unless they were together," Rowan finished. "Secretly. Sponsors wouldn't like lovers who race against each other. Finn planned to withdraw today, let her win. He said he had to make something right first." "What was wrong?" Rowan exhaled. "The Firebird's new carbon mast. Finn suspected sabotage. Hairline cuts disguised with resin. Enough to break if the wind screamed." Rowan's voice dropped. "He thought someone wanted him to win anyway, by forcing other boats to reef or drop sails. Said if the mast snapped mid-race, he'd be blamed for careless maintenance. He wanted proof." Pia felt the ground listing. "Someone stabs him in the shoulder hours later. Maybe he caught them tampering." Lightning flickered far out at sea, throwing the wheel into sharp relief. "We should tell Constable Sifu," Rowan said. "We will. But first, I need to see the Firebird." "Pia," Rowan began, but she was already running. Rain started as they reached Pier 3. Sefu's tape still fluttered, but the constable himself was likely nursing a nightcap. The Firebird looked forlorn, sails furled tight. Pia boarded, Rowan following. Moonlight speared the deck. Pia inspected the base of the mast, running fingers along the carbon. She felt a ridge, thin, new, resin. Using Rowan's pocket knife, she pried. A section the size of a hand flaked off, revealing a shallow groove sawn into the fibre. More slices spiraled upward. "He was right," Rowan murmured. Footsteps thudded on the pier. Lila Knox appeared, soaked, eyes blazing. "What are you doing?" Pia raised her hands. "Lila, listen." "No," Lila snapped. "Finn's barely cold and you're gutting his boat." "Someone weakened the mast," Pia explained. "Finn found out. That's why he died." Lila climbed aboard. "You think sabotage killed him?" Pia nodded. "And I think you can help us prove who did it." Lila folded her arms. Lightning flashed, illuminating her silhouette. "I'll need more than guesses, waitress." Rowan stepped up. "I worked the resin job last month, but someone added cuts this week. Only a handful have access when the marina closes." He ticked off names. Old Jory, Mechanic Ronan, Mayor Ansel, who kept a master key for inspections, and Constable Sefu, ironically. "Or Finn himself if he faked sabotage," Lila muttered. Pia stared at her. "No, I saw his body. The terror on his face wasn't staged." Thunder rumbled, gulls scattered. Pia's mind spun back to the blood on Finn's shoulder. If someone crept aboard to finish a sabotage job, Finn surprises them, gets stabbed, then the killer panics. Hoists Finn to hide the crime. No. Hoisting requires time, strength, and chilling calculation. The killer wanted a message. Rowan shuddered, like stringing a marlin to brag. An image flickered. Mayor Ansell insisting the holiday continue despite death. Tourists were money. Bad press was poison. If Finn pulled out of the race claiming sabotage, sponsors flee, coverage nosedives, Ansell loses revenue. Before Pia could voice it, footsteps echoed again. Mayor Ansell stepped from the shadows under a black umbrella. Curiosity can be dangerous, he called, smooth as oil. Lila's hand jumped to the winch handle. Stay where you are. Ansell smiled. Please, I only wish to mourn my friend. Friend? Rowan barked. You pressured him to race injured last year. Ansell shrugged. Rain drummed on his umbrella. We all need motivation. He glanced at the damaged mast. I see you discovered Finn's little trick. Trick? Pia echoed. He planned to fake sabotage, withdraw, and watch sympathy pour in, Ansell said. Cheap drama, but when I confronted him, he threatened to expose other matters. What matters? Pia demanded. Ansell sighed, as though tired of children. Finn bribed a judge last year. I urged him to stay silent, repay the bribe, keep Gullwing's reputation afloat. But he was a stubborn boy. Lightning ripped the sky, and for a breath Pia saw the mayor's face contorted, not in grief, but scorn. You killed him, Pia whispered. Ansell's eyes glittered. I corrected a liability. I offered to make the problem disappear quietly. Instead, he lunged at me with a belaying pin. Ansell tapped his umbrella. A quick stab to the shoulder disarmed him. The fall snapped his neck. Sadly messy. You strung him in the rigging, Lila hissed, to remind everyone what happens when a sailor betrays his port. Rowan lunged. Ansell whipped something from his coat. Folding knife, blade gleaming. Pia grabbed the first object her fingers found, a coil of wet rope, and flung it at his face. The blade slashed only air. Lila tackled Ansell, sending umbrella and knife skittering across the deck. Rain hammered down. Pia snatched the knife, but Ansell twisted, throwing Lila off. Rowan crashed into him, pinning arms. In the struggle, the mayor's foot caught the loosened resin patch. It cracked with a sickening crunch. The mast groaned. Off the boat! Pia yelled. They scrambled. Ansell tried to follow, slippered foot sliding, but Lila shoved him, hard. The broken mast toppled. Ansell screamed as rigging snared his leg, jerking him sideways. He crashed into the harbour with a splash. Rowan dove after. By the time Constable Sifu arrived, roused by the shouts, Rowan had hauled Ansell onto the pier, coughing seawater, wrists bound in cable ties taken from the Firebird's locker. Sifu took one look at the scene, at the resin flakes and the mayor wheezing curses, and placed him under arrest. Dawn of the second day painted the water gold. The regatta was cancelled, replaced by a memorial flotilla. Boats sailed slowly past the lighthouse, tossing wreaths into the tide. Pia stood on the bow of Siren's Bargain with Lila and Rowan, old Jory steering. Wind filled the sails, gentle, consoling. News spread quick. Finn's judge bribery was a rumour planted by Ansell to justify murder. Witnesses came forward stating the mayor had pressured multiple skippers over the years for donations to civic projects. Evidence lay ready in Ansell's seized ledgers. As the island tried to stitch its heart, Pia reopened the Laughing Lantern. People lined up not just for coffee but for details, solace, truth. Pia served them all, but when the line ebbed, she stepped outside, breathing brine. Thomas appeared, handing her a paper boat he'd folded from a napkin. The prow bore Finn's initials. Together they set it on the tide. Gullwing's seawall glittered with thousands of such paper tributes. Abuela was right, Pia murmured, recalling her dream. Watch the rigging. Thomas bumped her shoulder. And you did. Cries of gulls rose, neither mournful nor joyful, merely eternal. The island would heal. Sailor's Day would return next year, tempered by memory, anchored by justice. Pia took Thomas's hand, feeling the steady pulse of the sea beneath wood, beneath stone, beneath every story still waiting to surface on Gullwing Island.